Aren't you glad that he chose you? Is there anybody in who will just wave up your hand and say, I'm glad that the Lord chose me. And he chose me despite my unclean record. The Lord has decided to use you, and there is not anything that anybody can do about God's choice. Somebody ought to shout right there, God's choice has been made, and there is nothing that Satan can do about the choosing of God. Somebody ought to shake somebody's hand right there and affirm to them that God chose me. Can you say that? God chose me. Come on, say it. Come on, you're not talking back. Say it. Somebody said, I want you to shake somebody. Say, everybody shake. Say, everybody shake. Everybody shake somebody's hand and say, neighbor, God chose me. Can I get a witness? Come on, turn to somebody else. You got to help me, brother David. God chose me. And even if you don't think that I'm a good choice, still God chose me. Can I get a witness? God has decided to choose me. God has decided to choose you with an unclean record. God has decided that he is able to use you in spite of you. He has decided that you are fit for service because of his grace and mercy. I am so glad this morning that in spite of me, God